Hey wonderful people, so today we're going to be making this gorgeous pair of sunflower earrings, as you can see here. So in order to make this, what you will need is the following. So you can use some thread, but what I do is I normally have 4-ply cotton yarn. So I need the colors dark brown and yellow, but all I do is I'm not going to be using 4-ply. Instead, I'm going to pull one strand apart from the 4 strands, and then, well, after I pulled it all the way apart and making sure, so I pre-cut it first. I've got myself about a good 1.5 meters or so. Then I pull out the one strand of my 4-ply yarn, and this is exactly what I work with all the time. So that's just to help you out there. Then I also use a 0.9 millimeter hook, as you can see there. But if 0.9 is too big for you, feel free to go down to 0.75, 0.65, etc. But 0.9 is something that works quite well for me. I've got a pair of cutters, and I have a very small sewing needle that I also use. And remember, the sewing needle that you have, it needs to be small, it needs to be very sharp and pointed at the end there. Okay, let's get started. To begin, I'm going to start with the center of the sunflower. And so what we're going to do here is make what is called a magic ring. And I had a little quiz question up on one of my posts for, answering the question for why is it called a magic ring. And it's because, well, when you pull the tail end here, it closes this seamlessly so that there are no gaps, and apparently that's magical, so that's why it's called a magic ring. Anyways, we're going to make a magic ring and chain 1 just there. And now at this point, what we want to do is create what is called a puff stitch. Now, puff stitch can come in all various shapes and sizes depending on how many times you wrap the yarn and pull the yarn through. So I'm going to show you what a puff stitch looks like, and then we can continue on throughout this video to make these puff stitches. So what you do to make a puff stitch is you wrap the yarn once around the hook, you go into the magic ring, you pull the yarn through, and you just pull it up like that. So now we have 3 loops on the hook. I haven't pulled the yarn through any of these 3 loops on the hook because for a puff stitch, what you have to do is continue to wrap the yarn around the hook. This is now the second time that I've entered into this magic ring, pulled the yarn through, and now I actually have 5 loops on the hook. So I'm going to do this one more time. Wrap the yarn, have the hook come into the center, pull the yarn through, and this now, as I've pulled it up, I've got 7 loops on my hook. We can count them all separately, or you can just believe me and count them for yourself. So there's 7 loops on the hook. Now feel free to wrap once more and pull the yarn through one more time to have 9 loops on the hook, but for me 7 is just enough. And now this is the point that I'm going to pull the yarn through all 7 loops on my hook, and notice how my hook is kind of down. I stretch at the bottom here and kind of make an arc shape as I pull it up. So there we go. There is the first puff stitch, and I'm just going to finish that with a chain. So we've got 1 chain there. So I've got the puff stitch and a chain. Now we're going to make this very same puff stitch a total of 10 times. So I'm going to show you how to do it again, and then we might pause the video. You guys can complete the 10 puff stitches and then come back and we can start the next thing. So remember, wrap the yarn around the hook, come into the magic ring, pull the yarn through, and pull it up a little bit as well, because you don't want them too tight so that you can't pull the yarn through all these loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn, pull the yarn through, and pull up a little bit as well. Wrap the yarn inside the magic ring, pull the yarn up and a little bit further up, and then we're going to pull the yarn through, pulling down here at the base, making a nice arc shape as we pull that yarn through, and to finish it off, we chain 1. So there is my second puff stitch right here. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video, make another 8 puff stitches until you have 10 in total, and then I'll show you what to do at the end there. Okay, so from here I've created 9 puff stitches. I've got 1 more to go. My magic ring is getting a little bit wider here, but that's okay. I'm really holding it at this point here to keep it all nice and snug together. So I'll just create this last puff stitch now. So there's wrap once, wrap twice, and wrap 3 times, pulling up. Each time that I do that, the yarn comes through all of these, and I will make a chain, just 1 chain. And now from here I've got 10 puff stitches, and this is the magic part for why it's called a magic ring, because as you pull the yarn, and don't pull it too tightly, remember you'd want just enough what's the word, like you want to make it so that you don't pull it too tight, it's not tensing up too much, you just pull it at the right amount so that this doesn't snap. You never want it to snap. And once you've kind of tightened your circle, and you might have a little bit of a gap in the middle, and that's more than fine, we do have 10 puff stitches in there, so we're creating a lot of space. What you will do at this point is you'll come into the first stitch. I don't know if you can see that, but there's the stitch. Come into the very first stitch, and you just create a slip stitch into the loop on the hook to finish. Now with this first center piece, you can actually cut the yarn. So if I cut it maybe about there, and what we will do now, so we've got to make this again, but in the second round we're not going to cut the yarn. But what you do need to do for this one is to weave in these two ends into the back of the centerpiece to hide. So let's do that now. So here, as you can see, my needle is coming through the back section. I've just gone through a few of these yarn threads here. I'll pull it down, and what I can do here, I might have to do this twice just because the eye of my needle is quite small, but I'm going to try and thread my yarn through the eye of the needle just like that and pull it through. Okay, so that's one done. Now we have to do it for this yarn tail over here. So I'm going to have my needle come in a couple of those same yarn threads at the back there, pull it down nice and tight. I might turn the yarn tail over here so that's a little bit easier to get into my eye of the needle. Pull that through, not all the way through though, and then pull it down here. So there we go. There is woven yarn tails into the back of my sunflower centerpiece. And here at this point, I'm just going to cut those yarn tails because we don't need them anymore, they're woven in. So there is our very first centerpiece that we have here. We'll make another one, but this time do not cut the yarn. So go ahead and pause the video, make another one, and don't cut the yarn, and we'll see each other at the end of that. Okay, so I've just completed the second puff stitch right here. I've pulled the yarn tail at the back there, so I've closed the loop. I've woven in the yarn tail into the back of these stitches and cut it off so that we can hide it. And all I've done is just made a slip stitch here into the very first stitch to finish. I haven't chained one or anything like that so far. Okay, so from here, like I said, now we're going to, so I've only done a slip stitch here. I'm not going to chain one at this point. What I will do is I'll grab my other center piece of my sunflower. Now can you see this is the right way that they should be, but I want the insides kind of facing towards each other, and then the correct sides to face the outside, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to show you here. So this is the outside where it looks nice. This is the outside as well where it looks nice as well. So that's how you will align it together. Now the next thing that we're going to be doing is, well, I'm going to enter my hook into this very first stitch right there. And then I'm also going to enter it into the stitch, well, it can be any stitch really, but I kind of want to get the top part. So like for example, right here, the front and back loops of this point as well. So I'm going to join them together, and then all I'm going to do is pull the yarn through and make a single crochet stitch just like that. And now you want to do that for all of these stitches all the way around. So remember, you have 20 stitches in total, which means you should now have 20 single crochet stitches as you go in and out of them all the way around. So here's my second one. I'm coming up to it now, coming in here. Front, make sure you always get the front and back loops, by the way. You never want to miss and only have, like, for example, just the front loop or just the back loop. You've got to make sure that you're getting both the front and back loops like that. Then I'll pull the yarn through, and there's my second single crochet stitch. So you should have, and make sure you do have, 20 single crochet stitches all the way around. Okay, so I'll let you continue that now, and then we'll come back here when you finish 20 single crochet stitches. Don't forget to count on your way. Good luck. So I've just finished my 20th single crochet stitch right there. And now what I'll be doing is coming into the very first single crochet stitch that I made both in the front and back loops there, and just making a slip stitch to finish that off and connect that round together. So there we go, that's the center of the sunflower all done right there. So at this point, what I'll be doing is I'll just set this aside a little bit. I have some pre-cut yellow yarn, as you can see here, and I've already used one strand of this before, but I'm going to pull another one strand all the way out, and so I'm just left with one ply yarn, one ply cotton yarn specifically. And now I've used maybe about like two or so meters of this yellow yarn right here, and this is now what I'm going to change my yarn color to. So I'm going to pick up my center back over here. I'm going to have my yellow yarn come underneath, and what I will do at this point is chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Then with my brown yarn, I'm going to pull it a little bit so that you don't see that that first little loop over here as much. So I'm going to chain 3, as you can see here. Now we're going to do something. We're going to repeat this over and over again. You'll see. So this is the pattern. So you've chained 3. You're going to wrap the yarn once and come into the very first stitch space. Now, because I haven't woven these into the back section here, I'm going to weave it in as I'm making this petal. So these are the sunflower petals that we're making. I'm going to pull the yarn through and lift up. Now I'll repeat this another 2 times. So come in the same stitch, pull the yarn through and lift up. Wrap the yarn, same stitch, pull the yarn through and lift up. Okay, so that's 3 times of wrapping the yarn and pulling it through. At this point, what I'm going to do is come into the very next stitch space. So we're not going to wrap the yarn at this point. I'm just inserting my hook into the very next stitch. I'm going to pull the yarn through just like that. Now I can wrap my yarn and pull the yarn through, wrap the yarn again, and pull the yarn through. So there we go. Once I have all of these loops on my hook, and you can see we've pulled up every time just to create enough space so that when I pull this yarn through all of these loops, it's a lot easier. And you'll see this now. So I'm going to pull a little bit at the bottom here whilst I wrap the yarn and pull it, making this arc sort of shape as I come all the way to the top. And you can see that I've accidentally lost the yarn at that point because I was pulling too tightly. And that's okay, these things happen, so just be mindful of them. So I'm coming up here and I'm coming into that very first stitch. There we go. Okay, so at this point, what I will do is chain 3. So here's the first chain, here's the second chain, and here's the third chain. And now we have to make this pointed like piece at the beginning, at the top of our petal. So we want a pointed petal here. So all I'm going to do is enter my hook through this space right here. I will grab the yarn and just make a regular slip stitch. So I'll do that again. And I can see that I've accidentally missed a loop here when I pull the yarn through. So I will actually have to do all of that again, but I'll be very quick, don't worry. Just be mindful of that as well. It's good that I'm showing mistakes here because things like that do happen all the time. You just have to be mindful of it. There's no one that is a perfect crocheter ever. So here we go. I'm coming into the first stitch, pulling up, here again, pull up, here again. Oh wait. Okay, so I'm coming into the first stitch space right there, pull up, first stitch space again, pull up, wrap the yarn, first stitch space again, and pull up as best as I can. Now I'm coming into the second spot, pull the yarn up, wrap the yarn, same space, pull the yarn up, and once more, same space, pull the yarn up, pull through all, chain 1, 2, and 3, and this is the point that we are up to now. So what I'm going to do is come into this stitch space right here and make a slip stitch. So just a quick little slip stitch into that loop that was on my hook. You will have to turn your fingers and your yarn and everything to get that, and you'll just have to be wary of how you do that as well. Make sure it's all about those angles and the consistency and how you're pulling the yarn. That's very important. At this point, you want to chain 3 once you've made that slip stitch, and we actually call that a picot stitch because you form that point. So we're going to chain 3. This is second chain and this is the third chain now. we'll come into the very same stitch space that we were in before. I'll still have these 2 yarn tails overlaid on the top of my hook, and we will make a slip stitch here. And you can see that I'm really turning my yarn and my hook, angling it so that I can make that slip stitch. And there we go. There is the very first petal that you can see. So let's do that again, because in total you'll have 10 petals to make. So here, chain 3, that's how you start it. 1, 2, 3. Wrap the yarn, come into the very next stitch space, pull the yarn up. Wrap the yarn, same stitch space, pull the yarn up. Wrap the yarn, same stitch space, is the third wrap by the way, pull the yarn up. Now you'll go and insert your hook into the next stitch space, pull the yarn up. So no wrapping for that very first one. Now you wrap the yarn in the same stitch space, pull the yarn up. And last time, wrap the yarn, same stitch space, pull the yarn up, just like that. Now you're going to pull the yarn through all of the loops on the hook, and again twist your hook and have the angle pull a little bit down here so you can do that. At this point, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. You're going to insert your hook into this little space right here and make a picot stitch. And really that's just a slip stitch, but you've created the point. So pull through here, and then you'll make the slip stitch into that first loop that was on the hook. There you've got that point over there. Then you'll chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you'll come into the very same stitch space and make a slip stitch. So again, turning my yarn so that I can get that slip stitch in there nice and neatly. So there we go. That is the second petal now that you can see from my sunflower. So what now I'll ask you to do is repeat this a total of 10 times. So you have 8 more to go, and that's why, so you can see each petal uses 2 stitch spaces. So that's why we had 20 in total, and you want an even number. So we have 20 in total, which means we make 10 petals in total as well. So pause the video here, make your 10 petals, and come back and we can finish this off together at the end. I've just finished my 10th petal. I've chained 3, and I'm going to go into the same stitch space as normal and pull the yarn through and make finally a slip stitch to finish that all off. And there we go. Now I'm just going to pull the yarn through that space, or that loop that was on my hook. I'll pull it all the way through, give it a nice little tug like there. And see these 2 yarn tails over here? So that's not where I finished. These were the additional 2. Remember how we weaved these into the first couple of petals? So I can just cut those away because we don't need them anymore, and they're woven in, so they're already nice and secure there. But with this one, I will have to weave it in. So if I just cut the yarn maybe over there, I'll grab my little sharp needle over here. I'll weave into the base of the yellow petal, and I might go through, let's say, a total of 2 petals, just as you can see here. So I've gone through about 2 petals there. Now I'm going to grab the yarn tail that was yellow, and I will weave it through the eye of the needle. Pull it through just a little bit. Make sure you're getting both. Oh well, there we go. I didn't do that very well. I'll try that again. So I might cut a little bit further along as well, just to make it a little bit easier for myself, because even one strand is kind of created by these 2 interwoven strands of cotton yarn, but they are meant to be inseparable anyway. And then we're going to pull it through as we've done that. Whoops, we better do that nice and neatly so we didn't make any knots as we do it. So there you go. So we're pulling that all the way through. I could even weave it in a little bit more if I wanted to, which I actually might do just to more fully secure that in place, because I don't want it to come apart ever. So I'm pulling, 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 and then I'll grab my pair of cutters and I will cut right here. And so there we go. Here's the front of the sunflower. Here's the back. They both look wonderful. And at this point now, all you need to do is add the jump hoop or ring and then the earring. So let's do that now. So here's the jump ring and here is the hook. We're going to work with the jump ring first. If you've never done this before, I'll show you how to do it. You need a pair of pliers. This is the only way you could really do it. Otherwise, you can use your fingers to try and open it, but it will be tough. I'm going to open it from the side. So here you can see I'm pulling outwards And I never want to pull upwards like that, because you'll ruin the jump hoop at that point. You just want to pull it at the sideways position. All we're going to do here is find one of the petals, it doesn't matter which one, and we're going to go into the space right at the top there. So you can see that's the space between the pico stitch and the 3 chains. So I'll just pull my jump hoop through that. Then I'm going to grab the hook. As you can see, here's my hook. Now this is the front of my earring, so I want the hook kind of facing the back side of that. It won't be perfect because, you know, this jump ring is facing forward back anyway. If we tried to put it on the side, then it would work a little bit better, but this is more than fine. No problems at all. And then we'll use our pair of pliers to push the jump ring back together. Push it nice and secure as well. You don't want any space between the connection here. I'm not going to pull it too hard forwards and back, but definitely from the side, squeeze that together. And there we go. There is our wonderful sunflower earring, as you can see there. So you'll make the second one, and then you'll get something that looks like this. You put it on a card, add the stoppers at the back, sell your earrings, give it as a gift to a friend, make them for yourselves, whatever it may be. But that's essentially how you make your beautiful puff sunflower stitch earring. I hope you enjoy that, guys, and I guess I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. It's always nice to read your comments as well. You can donate to me, see the link in the description if you like these videos and want more of them. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.